feminist rhetoric, on the other hand, is public, intentional, and persuasive, and its main goal is to give a more accurate perspective of the world, give the audience a more accurate perspective of the world by including the experiences and voices of women. Now, how is Marilyn Waring's essay example of feminist rhetoric? First, because of its goal, then because of the structure, and finally because of the style. Those three components determine how successful example of feminist rhetoric is, and that is why I will discuss each one of them separately. The essay Invisibility of Women's Work is from the book The Three Masquerades, Essays on Equality, Work, and Human Rights. However, the copy that I have was published in volume 17 of Canadian Women's Studies. I believe it's a remarkable work because it's witty, logical, and sarcastic, but this does not by any chance devaluate it as an academic work. In terms of the goal, just like feminist rhetoric is persuasive, this essay is also persuasive, and its main goal is to persuade the audience that practices which take place in countries such as Nepal are oppressive and extremely harmful for women. At the same time, another goal is to inform people how the way global economy is constructed supports that oppression and the invisibility of women's work. Is the goal achieved? In my opinion, yes, the essay is extremely successful, but it would not have been as successful if the structure and the style of the essay were different. So, in terms of structure, even though the essay is short, it is a harsh critique of global economy and the way it treats women in countries such as Nepal. All the arguments that Marilyn Waring makes are backed up with facts. The essay includes a lot of research, both primary and secondary. Marilyn Waring has been at those places that she talks about. She has interviewed numerous people. Furthermore, as I have already mentioned, she has a PhD in political economy, and all those factors play a big role when structuring the essay. Marilyn Waring begins by the shocking statement for the modern citizen of the world. She talks about women scooping up dung in their bare hands, the quote that I started my presentation with, and this action is unthinkable for many of current men and women, and that is why it acts as a great attention getter for the modern reader. Afterwards, Marilyn Waring gives actually a detailed explanation of what women in Nepal use dung for. She says, in the context of the lives of these women, access to dung is a matter of daily survival. In addition to providing fertilizer, it is a primary source of cooking fuel, and it's also used as a building material and plaster. In order to explain why scooping dung is an example of the invisibility of women's work in Nepal, she makes a parallel by giving an example about the mining industry. Waring says, in mining or gas extraction, for example, paid workers harvest their primary resource. Machines transport it to processing plants. The raw material is refined, the product manufactured, it is sold, then consumed. The traditional economic model is followed. Workers process raw material for the market. This counts. But when dung is used, the non-product is carried as a service. by housewives to sustain land, dwellings, and households, then, according to the economic model, nothing happens. There is no economic activity. This example, this parallel between mining and scooping dung and using it for different household duties actually is only a small part of the concept of women performing labor that has no economic value whatsoever. Women's production, their actual work, is left unpaid. And by making the parallel between unknown activities and those women, Waring makes it easier for the reader to understand the wrongdoings that take place in the world. She continues down by talking about dungs and its importance. Because dung is used as a fuel, it's a major instance of import substitution. And the country would actually be in debt if women have not processed the alternative, namely dung. Further down the essay, she criticizes the concept of gross domestic product, because according to the International Monetary Fund, per capita gross domestic product determines the well-being of the citizens of a country, and aid donors use the gross domestic product, or GDP, to determine who is in need. However, donors prefer to invest in countries with high GDP in order to integrate their own exports in the market, and therefore take back their investments. And that is how those who are really in need actually do not get the aid, because according to the United Nations system of national accounts, cooking is active labor when cooked food is sold, and economically inactive labor when it is not. Housework is productive when performed by a paid domestic servant, and non-productive when no payment is involved. These who care for children in an orphanage are occupied, but mothers who care for their children at home are unoccupied. The problem here, as Marilyn Waring stresses, is that women's labor is not recognized as labor because it is not paid. What she states is another problem is the practice of exclusion, because in Nepal, agricultural work is done by women, and women's total work burden exceeds that of men, but at the same time, they have no effective access to land ownership. Women have no independence whatsoever, and that is how direct discrimination is present. Marilyn Waring further discusses these problems by giving examples from interviews that he made, by giving examples from her personal experience as a worker in those areas of the world, and in the end she concludes that the role and work of women on the planet are intimately related to the goal of comprehensive socio-economic and political development. This work is vital for the development of all societies and for the quality of life on our planet. In the end, because of the structure Marilyn Waring supplies her readers with, I would say that she definitely fulfills her goal of explaining the problems concerning the invisibility of women's labor in Nepal.